Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayanti Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 20. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Sanatana Goswami in the science of the absolute truth. Text 118 onwards. Kabhu swarge uthaye, kabhu narake dubaye, dandya jana raja yena nadite chubaye. So Mahaprabhu is further speaking to Sanatana Goswami about the living entity and how the living entity falls from the spiritual world, and in the material world he is trying to be happy, because this is what Maya does, makes us think that we can be happy here. But what happens in the material condition, the living entity is sometimes raised to higher planetary systems and material prosperity, and sometimes drowned in a hellish situation. His state is exactly like that of a criminal whom a king punishes by submerging him in water and then raising him again from the water. In the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, it is stated, Asango hi ayam purusha. The living entity is always free from the contamination of the material world. Living entity, soul is not contaminated, soul does not go through either pains or pleasure. But what does happen? So one who is not materially infected and who does not forget Krishna as his master is called Nitya Mukta. This was one of the questions of Sanatana Goswami. Why these threefold miseries bother me, trouble me? But of course, that was not for Sanatana Goswami. That question is for all of us. So Prabhupada is writing here, one who is not materially infected, whether living here or not, whether living here or living in the spiritual world. But if he is not materially infected, he is Nitya Mukta. In other words, one who is eternally liberated from material contamination is called Nitya Mukta. From time immemorial, the Nitya Mukta living entity has always been a devotee of Krishna, and his only attempt has been to serve Krishna. Thus, he never forgets his eternal relationship, his eternal servitorship to Krishna. Any living entity who forgets his eternal relationship with Krishna is under the sway of the material condition. Bereft of the Lord's transcendental loving service, he is subjected to the reactions of fruitive activity. So, bereft of the Lord's transcendental loving service, he is subjected to the reactions of fruitive activity. When he is elevated to the higher planetary systems due to worldly pious activities, he considers himself well situated. But when he is subjected to punishment, he thinks himself improperly situated. Thus, material nature awards and punishes the living entity. When the living entity is materially opulent, material nature is rewarding him. When he is materially embarrassed, material nature is punishing him. But we go through all these cycles all the time, whether we are on earth, heavenly planet, hellish planet, we say we don't know. But even on earth, even in this life, sometimes we are materially opulent, sometimes we are punished. Even if somebody is very, very opulent, but still, maybe he's got bad health, maybe some other problems are there which are bothering him, then he is punished, he is being punished. So everybody is going through these cycles. And why he gets distressed? The problem is not what happens outside. Problem is what happens inside. Why he gets distressed? Because no connection with Krishna. One who has forgotten his connection with Krishna, he has forgotten that he is servant of Krishna, he is in distress. He is in very much distress. Just like we see the example of Pandavas, 5 brothers, glorious brothers, Maharaj Yudhishthira is Chakravarti Samrat. And then in the game of dice, they lose everything. Even they lose their wife. And she was tried to be disrobed by Duryodhana and Dushasana. Means there could not be any more disrespectful situation for any Kshatriya. And the best of the warriors. But they were in such a position, they could not even protect their own wife. And then out in the forest, 13 years, for 12 years exile and 1 year incognito. And in incognito, they had to go through real troublesome situation. Had to hide themselves and serve as servants. We can't imagine their situation at that time. But they never lost faith in Krishna. Never. And then, just in 18 days of war, they just gained everything back. Killed all the opponents, all the enemies. In only 18 days. Why? They were with Krishna. They were always with Krishna, always serving, thinking of Krishna, and Krishna was there to protect them. But that kind of bhakti is required. This is what Krishna shows by putting his devotees through such situations. That even if in such a situation my devotee never leaves me, then obviously I never leave my devotee. Bhayam dvitiya viniveshita se atishadapitasya viparyayo smriti. Tan maya yato buddha bhajetatam bhaktya ekya esham guru devata. When the living entity is attracted by the material energy, which is separate from Krishna, he is empowered by fear. Because he is separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the material energy, his conception of life is reversed. In other words, instead of being the eternal servant of Krishna, he becomes Krishna's competitor. This is called Viparyayo Smriti. To nullify this mistake, one who is actually learned and advanced worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his spiritual master, worshipful deity and source of life. He thus worships the Lord by the process of unalloyed devotional service. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam. It is an instruction given by Kavi Rishi, one of the 9 saintly personalities called the 9 Yogendras, or Nav Yogendra. When Vasudeva, Krishna's father, asked Devarshi Narad in Dwarka about devotional service, it was mentioned that previously King Nimi, who was the king of Videha, was instructed by the 9 Yogendras. When Sri Narad Muni discoursed on Bhagavad Dharma, devotional service, he indicated how a conditioned soul can be liberated by engaging in loving transcendental service of the Lord. And this he told to Krishna's father, Vasudevji. But Vasudevji asked this question and he wanted to know more about devotion service. The Lord is a super soul, spiritual master, and worshipable deity of all conditioned souls. Not only is Krishna the supreme worshipful deity for all living entities, But he is also the Guru or Chaitya Guru, the Super Soul, who always gives the living entity good counsel. Unfortunately, the living entity neglects the Supreme Person's instructions. He thus identifies with the material energy and is consequently overpowered by a kind of fear resulting from accepting himself as a material body and considering paraphernalia related to the material body to be his property. And this is situation with all of us. That's why we are overpowered by a kind of fear. Fear in every situation. Every day we are fearful. All types of fruitive results actually come from the spirit soul, but because he has forgotten his real duty, he is embarrassed by many material consequences such as fear and attachment. The only remedy is to revert to the service of the Lord and thus be saved from material nature's unwanted harassment. So, unwanted harassment, but the harassment nevertheless is there, whether we want it or not. But service of the Lord takes us away from the embarrassment or harassment or distress. It keeps one always in a happy situation. Sadhu shastra kripai yadi krishnonumukha hai, sei jiva nistare maya tahare chana. If the conditioned soul becomes Krishna conscious by the mercy of the saintly persons who voluntarily preach scriptural injunctions and help him to become Krishna conscious, the conditioned soul is liberated from the clutches of Maya, who gives him up. A conditioned soul is one who has forgotten Krishna as his eternal master. Thinking that he is enjoying the material world, the conditioned soul suffers the threefold miseries of material existence. Thinking that he is enjoying the material. The conditioned soul suffers the threefold miseries. So adibhautik, adidevik, adhyatmik, klesha are there. And we think we are enjoying. Saintly persons or sadhus, Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, preach Krishna consciousness on the basis of the Vedic literature. It's only by their mercy that the conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness. When awakened, he is no longer eager to enjoy the materialistic way of life. Instead, he devotes himself to that loving, transcendental service of the Lord. When one engages in the Lord's devotional service, he becomes detached from material enjoyment. So, as long as there is no attachment, then there is no question of miseries. Bhakti pareshan bhavirakte ranyatra chaishtarik eka kala. This is the test by which one can tell whether he is advancing in devotional service. So many times this question comes in our mind. Am I really making advancement or not? One must be detached from material enjoyment. So that is the symptom, that is a criteria that we are making advancement. Such detachment means that Maya has actually given the conditioned soul liberation from illusory enjoyment. When one is advanced in Krishna consciousness, he does not consider himself as good as Krishna. Whenever he thinks that he is an enjoyer of material advantages, he is imprisoned in the bodily conception. However, when he is freed from bodily conception, he can engage in devotional service, which is his actual position of freedom from the clutches of Maya. This is all explained in the following words from Bhagavad Gita. See, more we are engaged in devotional service, especially chanting, Shravanam and Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. Then more we get detached from material enjoyment. We have no interest anymore. Not that no interest, we don't even want to waste our time. And we want to engage more and more in Krishna consciousness, the activities of Krishna consciousness. It's not that all of a sudden 24 hours we are doing only bhakti, not gonna happen. It just goes slowly, slowly, slowly. Let it develop slowly, slowly, slowly. No competition with anybody. No trying to impress anybody. Just trying to please the Lord. Please Srila Prabhupada by our devotion service. As much as we can. Mind will keep on playing its games. That's the job of the mind. But regardless, we continue, carry on with our service. And that is a sign of making progress. Bhakti pareshan abhav viraktir anyatra cha. Viraktir anyatra cha. Bhakti means making progress in bhakti. Paresh anubhav, they are experiencing the Supreme Lord. And viraktir anyatra cha. This is the three symptoms of making progress. And then when we are making progress, then those threefold miseries will be there, but it will not affect us. Or slowly, 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 their effect will keep on going. Test definitely will be there. Maya will keep on testing to make sure we are making progress. And actually at that time, always, but especially at the time of test, we need help of the devotees, sadhus. And that is why association of devotees, sadhu sangha, is very, very, very important. And Prabhupada has explained that sadhus or Bhagavad, there are two kinds of Bhagavad. One is Purush Bhagavad or devotee Bhagavad, and one is Mukh Bhagavad. So either we associate with devotees or we associate with the books. The association has to be there. And what kind of clutches, as Prabhupada mentioned, clutches of Maya. What are clutches of, what kind of clutches of it? Devi hi esha gunamayi mama Maya duratyaya. Mame vya prapadyante Maya me tam tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. Although in translation, Prabhupada says difficult to overcome, but in the shloka it is mam maya duratyaya. Means it's almost impossible. Very, very difficult. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. This is Krishna's guarantee. So Maya is very strong, very powerful, cannot overcome it. But Krishna, just surrender to me, you will easily cross. Maya mugdha jiver nahi swata Krishna gyan. Jiver kripaye kaila Krishna veda pura. The conditioned soul cannot revive his Krishna consciousness by his own effort. By our own effort, not possible. But out of causeless mercy, Lord Krishna compiled the Vedic literature and it supplements the Puranas. So that we can take shelter of Veda Puran, get the instructions and make progress. And here Mahaprabhu is telling that Krishna compiled Vedic literature and it supplements the Puranas. Those who have no faith in the scriptures, no faith in Krishna, no faith in the acharyas, they always bring about these questions. Oh, who wrote the Vedas? Some sages in the forest, they wrote the Vedas or these scriptures, and they made God. And they made the laws for the society to function. Otherwise, there was no need. There is. Lord Krishna compiled the Vedic literature. Krishna himself did it. For our benefit. So we know how to take shelter of the Lord, how to get out of this material world. And even while living in the material world, how to live happily and serving, while at the same time serve Krishna. A conditioned soul is bewildered by the Lord's illusory energy, Maya. Maya's business is to keep the conditioned soul forgetful of his real relationship with Krishna. Thus, the living entity forgets his real identity as spirit soul, Brahm, and instead of realizing his factual position, thinks himself the product of the material energy. So we think ourselves as this body, which is a product of material energy. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, yaya sammohito jivatmanam trigunatmakam paro api manute artham tatkritam cha vipadyate. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. And just keeps on going, every life after life. This is a description of Maya's action upon the conditioned soul. Thinking himself a product of the material energy, the conditioned soul engages in the service of the material energy in so many ways. He becomes a servant of lust, anger, greed, and envy. In this way, one totally becomes a servant of the illusory energy. Later, the bewildered soul becomes a servant of mental speculation. But in any case, he is simply covered by the illusory energy. Out of his causeless mercy and compassion, this is causeless mercy. Why would he want to give these conditioned souls any knowledge if he doesn't have love for them? Because we are part and parcel of Krishna. So he loves us. And also he doesn't want us to rot in the material world. He wants us to come back. So he gives Vedic literatures. Out of his causeless mercy and compassion, Krishna has compiled various Vedic literatures in his incarnation as Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is a Shakti avatar of Lord Krishna. He has very kindly presented these literatures to awaken the conditioned soul to his senses. Unfortunately, at the present moment, the conditioned souls are guided by demons who do not care to read the Vedic literatures. Although there is an immense treasure house of knowledge, people are engaged in reading useless literature that will give them no information on how to get out of the clutches of Maya. The purpose of the Vedic literatures is given in the following verses. So that we'll take up tomorrow. We'll stop here, see if anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, you all safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.